Welcome back to PR After Hours. I'm your host, Alex Greenwood, bringing you your weekly cocktail of PR and marketing tips that will help you and your business. Hello, listeners. It's me, Alex, from PR After Hours. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. And I wanted to talk to you just for a moment about the way I get this show right into your earbuds every week. It's because I use Anchor FM. Now, I've told you previously that I've been podcasting since 2006, back when we used stone knives and bear skins and a couple of Dixie cups and string. Anchor FM has really streamlined this and made it simpler for people who don't know the first thing about setting up a podcast or don't have, time to learn all the pro tools and stuff, because it's all right here. First thing it's important to know is it's free. There are certain tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. That's huge. Distribution is a big pain in the butt, to be honest with you, so it's really great Anchor FM can do that for you, and you're not paying hosting fees. That adds up every month. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started, and be sure to join me in the virtual cocktail lounge on PR After Hours. What would you think if I told you that we'd entered an era of informational bankruptcy? Well, hang on a minute and I'll tell you about it. First thing I got to say is thanks to Marc Whitt, who has been a guest on the show a couple of times, a couple episodes. I'll try to remember to put the link in the show notes. He forwarded this along to me. Marc is over at University of Kentucky, and he does PR there and has for some time. And of course, he wrote the number one PR book of the year, too, which I'll put a link in the show notes for that. But anyway, Marc, thanks so much. And he even bought a t-shirt. He swears. I mean, it's in the email. Trust me. He even bought a t-shirt. So wanted to just thank you, Marc, for this. But Marc sent me this tip from PR News, and I have to share it with you right now. It's just something that I was blown away by, because it's something that, frankly, I've thought about, but not actively thought about in the sense of talking about it on the show. But after the past few years, it's starting to show this whole informational bankruptcy. So without further ado, the article is by Nicole Schumann. It came out on the 26th of 2021. It's entitled Trust Trending High for Communications Priorities. Again, there'll be a link in the show notes. She says, trust could easily win as an early word of the year in 2021 after a deluge of misinformation and disinformation through the 2020 presidential election, confusion from the top when it comes to battling COVID-19, and a recorded public skepticism from media. Many organizations, brands, and public figures see trust as fundamental to reconnect with communities. It's a necessity in messaging, and it's on communicators to figure out the best way to deliver trust. It is so true. I've said it before, and I didn't make it up, but you can't fake sincerity, right? And you can't fake trust either. Trust is earned. And there have been a lot of people, politicians and others, who have burned through any shot of ever winning my trust ever again. I'm sure you feel the same way, or I would assume you do. But anyway, she goes in and she says, it's only been a week, but since the presidential inauguration, many Americans' ability to trust seems on the upswing. Well, that's some good news. And she says the trust is credited to the new administration's swift action regarding coronavirus. An Axios Ipsos poll released on the 26th said half of Americans have a, quote, great deal or fair amount of trust in the federal government regarding COVID-19. That's up from 40% before President Joe Biden's inauguration. The poll also shows, quote, trust in Biden has continued to increase since mid-December, 58%, up from 54%, while trust in Trump remains essentially the same, 27%, unquote. This rise may be due to a return to daily press briefings. Well, imagine that. An informed populace doesn't have time to fill the void with speculation and worry. They get the straight dope from the administration. By the way, that's me saying that part. I'm not reading that from the article. But including Dr. Fauci, Anthony Fauci, acknowledging a more than open approach to the delivery of COVID information to the public. And goes on and she talks about how earlier this month, the 2021 installment of the Edelman Trust Barometer showed the public blasting leaders across the board on the subject of trust, and the culprit was a surge in disinformation. The annual survey, she continues to say, is conducted across 28 global markets with 33,000 participants, and revealed that, quote, a rampant infodemic is fueling widespread mistrust of societal leaders. Edelman continued by saying a majority of respondents believe that government leaders, 57%, business leaders, 56%, and journalists, 59%, are purposely trying to mislead people by saying things they know are false. Well, so yeah, I would seem, and this is the thesis of the article, is that we communicators have a lot of work to do. And then Richard Edelman says, CEO of Edelman, that this is the era of information bankruptcy. We've been lied to by those in charge, and media sources are seen as politicized and biased. The result is a lack of quality information and increased divisiveness. This blew me away here, that a bright spot is the business sector. It replaced government as the most trusted institution. That just stuns me. It just stunned me. But actually, we're seeing something, I'm seeing at least something from business leaders that I had not expected, which is a demand, not just a request, not just a nudge, but a demand for accountability from the government. And that goes all the way from talking about COVID to accountability to politicians who either overtly or tacitly supported the sacking of the Capitol on January 6th. That, I mean, you have to just Google, corporations withholding donations, Capitol riot or whatever, and you can just find all these companies, and there's probably a website that's got all of these people nailed down. I'll try and find a link for the show notes, but if I don't, just Google it yourself and you'll see a lot of companies have just laid across this or created a red line and said, if you had something to do with the sacking of the Capitol, you crossed it, and we're not donating to you any further. Part of that too is there's a lot of grassroots organizations that are contacting these businesses and these corporations and saying, you know what, if you want our business, you're going to hold these people accountable. Now, it remains to be seen how much the new Justice Department leadership will hold those folks accountable. And that's not really what we're talking about here, other than the sense that we have a trust deficit here, an infodemic, and it's incumbent upon, and this is me talking, of course, I'm not reading this is incumbent upon all of us public relations professionals, all communicators. We have to do something with that. If you're ethical, I know you're already doing, though, you're going to hold your clients accountable for the messaging they want to have us facilitate for them. And we've got to make sure that we push back on things that we know are false or weaselly or those kinds of things. And I'm not saying that we have a lot of clients that do that, but we should be aware of that, and we should be doing a very good job of vetting information before it goes out. Not only because it's the right thing to do, but you should also do it because it will, the indemnification factor, protect yourself from getting sued if you're pushing something out there. Just ask the folks who ran afoul of Dominion voting machines company. Wow. That's a company that's holding some detractors who were spewing false information accountable. And they're even going after people who spread that disinformation on Twitter and stuff like that. So it's just a crazy time. But I really appreciate Marc sharing this with me. There's also some information about Twitter launching something called Birdwatch to combat misinformation. I have my own opinions about Twitter and about what they're doing and their motives, but at this point, for the purposes of this discussion, anything they can do to combat misinformation is a good thing. But we'll talk about Birdwatch a little later. I want to explore that a little more. But anyway, again, the article is called "Trust Trending High for Communications Priorities" by Nicole Schumann, and I did source it heavily here in this episode, so of course I will put a link in the show notes. And a special thank you again to Marc Whitt, who's always looking out for us. He's a fan of the show. He's been a great guest, and as I said, a best-selling author about PR, and he's one of those folks that keeps us honest. I'm not saying he's old, but I'm just going to call him like an elder statesman of PR because he's been around the block just like me, and he is insisting, I think, on professional standards, and that's important. All right, well, thanks so much for listening on this. I'd love to hear what you think about this article. I'd love for you to record a message. There's information in the show notes on how you can record your thoughts or your questions and put them here on the show. Please think that over. Alrighty? All right. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. But have you been there, done that, and got the t-shirt? Now's your chance. If you are a big fan of the Virtual Lounge right here at PR After Hours, why don't you tell the world and take our spiffy logo and plaster it across your chest for the whole world to see? Well, for the whole world to see on Zoom or whenever you do finally get out of your house. The PR After Hours tee shows that you're an exclusive member of the Virtual Lounge. It's a cool, comfortable, ring-spun, soft cotton tee. We look for the best possible options we could go for in these t-shirts, and it's in a variety of colors. You can get them in dark heather gray, royal blue, storm, maroon, or good old-fashioned white. These are really comfortable shirts. We offer a premium unisex tee from extra small all the way to 4XL, and a women's slim fit tee, which goes from small to 2XL. They are a hoot, they look cool, and besides, they'll do what we love to do most here at PR After Hours, start a conversation. The PR After Hours t-shirt is available now on Bonfire. The link is in the show notes, and I hope you'll look into getting one. I not only think they look cool and be great conversation starters, but they'll help us keep the Virtual Lounge doors open. Thanks so much. Oh, you know what that means? Looks like it's last call here at your Virtual Lounge for PR news, views, and interviews. Don't forget, you can ask me a question anytime. You can do it through our Twitter account, which is @HoursPR, or even better, you can send me a message vocally. I would love to hear your voice, and I'll answer it on the show. There's a link in the show notes. All you have to do is sign up through Anchor FM. It's free, doesn't take long, and you record your message. I get the message. I will play your audio. Just give me your first name and the city you live in, and then I will answer the question to the best of my ability right here on the show. Don't forget to, if you're enjoying this podcast, you can support it and help increase the frequency and value of the show. Just consider being a sponsor for your brand or your agency or just yourself because you're like, I like this show. Or just drop a few coins in the virtual tip jar. Either way, there's links in the show notes. Please check that out. All of that, of course, being in the show notes where you're listening right now or at prafterhours.com. I see that they're turning up the lights. Last call is over, and I've got to clean up this Virtual Lounge. And until next time, I'm Alex Greenwood, and you've been listening to PR After Hours on Anchor FM.